I will start recording this podcast when I am good and ready.
How about right now?
Good and ready.
When is good and ready?
When I am good and ready, Jared.
Well, would you mind describing when that is to me?
Good and plenty.
God, you're a Welcome to the No Experience Podcast, where two dudes who are not ready to die are on a quest to talk about anything and everything. I'm Jared Hines, and as always, I'm here with my co-host, Ammar Abdullah, and today we're talking about how close we are to death.
This is a grim one, Jared. I'm going to be honest with you.
I don't think it's grim. I think it's just kind of like one of those logistical facts of life that we have to face and like think about. I don't think it's inherently like bad or anything.
I didn't say bad, but you wouldn't consider that grim?
Well, stop ruining my fucking mood, dog.
Okay, fair enough.
I'm just sitting here trying to vibe, and you out here like, dog, that's grim. That's grim, dog. That's grim.
Yeah, okay. So death, the universal constant, the one thing that's all of us at some point in our life will face.
But what we're talking about is a little more specific. We are talking about imminent death. I feel like it's something that we as people in modern day take for granted. When you constantly hear, like, you could die tomorrow. Like, you could walk out of your house tomorrow and you could get hit by a car. You could walk out of your house today, right now, and you could get hit by a car and die, you know? But it's like, we've heard it so much, we kind of just don't think about it anymore. It's just like one of those fucking word vomits that people say and we don't really think about too often. But, for example, right, 2 days ago, I was like feet away from getting T-boned by a semi, right? I was that close from a semi just slamming into my side of the car and squishing me.
Yeah, that would have been it, to be honest. That would have been, like, there's no death save for that one. That was just stone cold dead immediately.
That was it. And then later that day, my apartment was almost set on fire. Somebody had like left the house and they had left something fucking burning on the stove. And their fire alarm was going off. And a lot of people, including myself, would usually just like kind of leave that. But for whatever reason, I was like, I'm going to check up on them. I knocked on the door. Nobody was answering. And I smelled smoke. So we called 911 and the fire department came and they, cleared it out, made it safe and everything. Thankfully, it didn't burn down. But, if I had just left alone, I was like, it's probably not a big deal. The whole apartment could have went up, and at the very least, could have lost like all of my shit.
Yeah, that would have. I mean, that does go to show you that you are at any given time mere moments from the end. So sure, I guess I can see why this is a topic that you'd want to talk about right now. So I guess I'm curious. Are you afraid of death? Is that something that scares you?
No. No.
You don't sound sure.
No, it's just like usually something I don't bring up in public, but I used to be very suicidal.
You and me both.
Yeah, and like I've attempted before, and I'm at a point in my life now where I know I would not attempt to commit suicide, but it's just one of those things in the back of my mind, where it's like, if I were about to be hit by a car, would I do anything to save myself? And the answer is usually maybe, right? So for the most part, I don't really fear death unless I'm thinking about it really hard and I'm like, I don't want to leave the people I love behind,
Yeah, fair enough.
I want more time with them.
And I guess there's always the natural kind of, if not fear, the recognition that you don't know what happens after this. Like, nobody knows for sure what happens when you die. So I can see why, if not afraid of that, you might be reticent to, step into that fucking blind eternity with no idea what comes next, if anything.
Yeah, and I think that's one of those things where we spend our whole lives trying to come to peace with that. Like, it's a whole life journey to get to the point where, like, okay, I don't know what's about to happen, but I'm okay with it. I'm ready, That is a whole life journey that you have to prepare yourself for, But, it's just, God, I got a ringing in my ear. What the fuck is that?
That's a tinnitus, homie.
Yeah, bro. No, I don't got a joke for that. Fuck it. But we spend our whole lives just kind of chilling and vibing and everything, but we don't think about all of the dangers in our life, because there's a lot of stuff that could kill us.
Oh, it's astronomical. These human bodies, are pretty fucking fragile, all things considered, especially compared to other animals.
Yeah, it's ironic. Humans and the human body are simultaneously super fragile, while at the same time being really resilient and adaptable. It's strange.
Well, yeah, but when you really break it down and think about it, the human body is really kind of bad at keeping itself alive. You can just get bumped on the head and then drop dead hours later.
Yeah, but then, like, at the same time, there are people who have fallen out of an airplane from, like, 12,500 feet and survived without a parachute.
Which, that's fucking insane. But, it does go to show you, no guarantees, right? Even death, which oftentimes feels like a guarantee, is not always going to hit you when you think it does, right? I'm sure the guy who was falling out of a plane with no parachute didn't expect he was going to survive that fall, right? And then he hits the ground and breaks his legs, and he's like, well, shit, I'm still alive. That's insane, It does go to show you that, death is always closer than we think, but oftentimes probably a lot further away than we think. We're pretty good at surviving traumatic shit. I've heard of people who have survived full-on getting shot in the head.
Yeah, that's something really interesting. A friend of ours, a mutual friend of ours, actually brought this up at one point, but apparently, like, shooting somebody in the head is not as effective as we tend to think it is, because, for one, right, let's assume that you actually shoot them in the head, it goes through into their brain. There's no
which is a big question mark in and of itself. There's documented stories of bullets bouncing off the skull.
Yeah, that's I'll get to that in a second, but like, a bullet can lodge itself in your brain. You can still survive, depending on where it hits and, like, how much it, like, tears through your brain.
Yeah, if it hits the brain stem, you're gone. That's full on gone. But
yeah, but sometimes it can fucking lodge itself in between both hemispheres of your brain, and, like, you might suffer some neurological damage, but overall you'll be alive and be able to live relatively independently.
Yeah, for as useful as the brain is, you can kind of survive without a lot of it.
Yeah, but there are documented cases of bullets just ricocheting off of people's skulls. The skull is a pretty decent fucking piece of bone. It does a good job sometimes.
Yeah, which is insane, actually, if you think about it. Especially, like, the sort of Byronic cliche of, like, shooting somebody right between the eyes. That's actually a very poor place to try and shoot someone, because that is the most thick part of your skull.
Yeah, you're not going to get very far with that.
Okay, so death, right, as an imminent concept, is something that, surprisingly, a lot of things that you would assume are 100% guarantees of death actually aren't. And, there are things that are pretty much guaranteed dead, right? Like, if you fall into a volcano, you explode, right? Like, and fun fact, that's something that I was reading up about, that people oftentimes misunderstand about falling into volcanoes. The sort of what you see in movies and shit is that you hit the lava, you catch on fire, and you start to sink. That's not what would happen at all, because lava is not a liquid, not in the sense of, like, water or something like that.
It's a semi-solid.
Yeah, exactly. So what would really happen is you would bounce off, and then you would heat up so quickly that all the steam in your body would begin to just violently expel, basically making you explode and causing a mini eruption. That is what would actually happen if you fell into a volcano. either way, you're dead, though, right? Like, there's no surviving that. Similarly, you know, if you are at the bottom of the ocean in like a deep sea diving bell and, you know, some shit breaks, you know, a window cracks and you, you know, water starts coming in, you're going to rapidly get hit by the water and the pressure and you're going to die. There's no surviving that, pretty much. There are guaranteed things that can kill you, but a lot of the things that you would think, you know, a lot of the sort of Hollywood cliches of stuff that's 100% guaranteed death, not as guaranteed as you might think.
No.
Getting shot in the head, not a guarantee. Your car tumbling off a cliff, not a guarantee that that's going to kill you. Hell, falling off a cliff is no guarantee it'll kill you. Which that's kind of scary to me in a way that, you know, you can survive that. I you know, oftentimes I would like look at that and be like, this will kill me. And that's comforting to know, like, this is like a guaranteed kill, something that I am prepared for by popular media, only to discover, nope. Falling out of a plane is not guaranteed to kill you. Falling off a cliff is not guaranteed to kill you. You know, there's a number of things that this human body can survive that you wouldn't think it could, that you wouldn't expect, right? So death is not, I don't think death is as imminent a threat as we think. Most people die from old age or disease, which are some of the things that we're actually least equipped to deal with.
Is that the leading cause of death?
No, car crashes are, but still not a guarantee. People survive, like, statistically, right? People survive car crashes all the fucking time because most car crashes are minor, right? But when you shove yourself into like a 2-ton metal projectile and go hurtling down the road at 45 miles per hour, I mean, stands to reason that if two 2-ton projectiles going that speed hit each other, death is pretty likely.
Yeah, you got a good chance.
Yeah. Speaking of which, you know what's an interesting factoid I learned the other day? You know how people always like to parrot the idea that you're a lot more likely to die in a car than you are in a plane?
Yeah.
Do you know that's actually a false statistic?
Really?
Yeah, because it doesn't control for the ratio of people who ride in planes to people who drive in cars. So the numbers look a lot bigger if you drive in a car, but you're actually a lot more likely to die in a plane because fewer people ride them. Statistically, you're more likely.
Oh.
Strictly from a percentage standpoint. That was just an interesting fact. Not altogether related to what we're talking about, but something that I thought was cool when I read about it. Jared, we're going to get a little serious here. You mentioned, and I have mentioned, that we have dealt with major bouts of suicidal depression in the past. Do you think that being that far gone into your own head, being that depressed, has made you more comfortable with the idea of death?
You know what? No. I think it's made me less comfortable with the idea of death, actually.
Interesting. I'm the exact opposite. Please elaborate.
Because for me, like, I wanted to die, right? And I tried to die, right? And that's something I wanted. But now I'm at the point where it's not something I'm looking for, right? And I have come to think about a lot of things very differently now, and I guess appreciate a lot more, right? And now death is more of a threat to me than it was before I got to this point.
Right. I mean, when you're in that headspace, like ready to die, death doesn't feel like a threat at all.
Yeah. So for me, death is a lot more of something that is a threat to me and the things that I love, you know, and I guess more of it has to do with the fear of loss than it does death. Not the actual death itself, it's the loss. And say if it were me to die, it's the fear of the effect that would have on the people that I love.
Yeah, a tremendous effect. More so than most people would assume, I think. People often underestimate their own roles in people's lives, and it sucks when you lose someone who's close to you. I've gone through that. It's shitty. But I will say, in my most dire bouts of suicidal depression, I did come, I'm about to get very grim on you with a story time. I did come mere like moments away from ending my own life. Like like I was standing. I don't know if you've ever been on Broadway in Boise, but it's by BSU campus, but there's a big bridge that goes over the Boise River, and I remember in January, maybe December, I was standing on that bridge, like ready. Like I was like, this is how I go out. I jump off this bridge. Hopefully I hit the water and die, right? Which I actually looked up later was very unlikely. What would have really happened is I would have hit the water and then frozen to death, which would have taken 10 minutes. And let me tell you, glad I didn't go through with that one. Very glad. But I will say that when I was standing on that bridge, a college kid rode by on his bike. I think I've told you this story, but
You have.
but it's a good story, and it's something that I hope might bring comfort to other people who might be in that a similar headspace to that. But a guy comes by on his bicycle, some college kid, and he sees me kind of standing there staring over the side of the bridge, and he stops. He stops and he turns around and he comes over to me and he's like, "Hey man, I have a pretty good idea what you're about to do. I don't know if I can stop you, but would you like something to drink before you go?" And I was like, "A Dr. Pepper would be nice." And he's like, "Great. There's a gas station on the corner. Come with me. Let's go get you a Dr. Pepper, and then, whatever happens, happens." And this nice college student bought me a Dr. Pepper. And I guess the idea, the point that I'm driving at with this story, it's a long walk to get here, is that certain random acts of compassion like that can genuinely turn someone's life around for the better, right? Like I was standing outside, this dude rides away on his bike, and I was sitting here like some stranger, some guy who didn't know me, stopped, saw what was happening, and gave me this random act of kindness. Suddenly I didn't want to die so much anymore. But also strangely, I was more comfortable with the idea that I might, because random acts of kindness like that are out happening every day. And I wish they happened more often, So my own experience with, coming that close to ending everything was something that has made me more comfortable with life, and moreover, more comfortable with death, because I live my life, I think, in a much better way now, knowing that I might at any time lose it, right? So I try to live a happier, healthier, better life, because death can come at any time, and I'm at peace with that, I don't know. That's sort of that was a long walk to get there, and I apologize for taking you on that walk, but it
was a great walk.
Yeah, I just figured that story would maybe help explain why I'm more comfortable with the idea of death, that somewhere out there, even after I'm long gone, will be committing those same random acts of compassion to other people, Some other kid is going to be standing on a bridge one day and have a college student offer to buy him a Dr. Pepper, and he is going to live because of it. And I don't know, that makes me a little bit more comfortable with the idea that one day I won't be here. I don't know why, but it does.
I don't see why we would try to artificially extend this episode anymore after that.
Yeah, I'm sorry. That was kind of a showstopper. I apologize.
No, that's fine. This is a great place to end it.
Getting very personal here on the No Experience podcast. As always, guys, we want to thank you so much for listening. Getting these podcasts out has been very rewarding. We're constantly, trying to improve. We're constantly upgrading our setup. We just bought video editing software so we can bring the podcast to you in glorious 1080p quality. We have new mics. We got a dual mic setup finally. No longer recording in the one mic in a closet. We're recording with two mics in a closet. And pretty soon we won't be recording in a closet anymore either. So keep coming out, keep listening, keep supporting us. Favorite, subscribe. You can follow us on Facebook at the No Experience Podcast. You can follow us on Twitter at the Dongin Man. We're on TikTok now. I'm updating a back catalog of clips from all of our episodes, keeping you guys up to date on everything that's going on with our podcast. The TikTok is at Brick Road. I'm pretty sure it's my personal TikTok. Stay healthy, guys, and commit more random acts of kindness.
Goodbye.
Bye-bye.
Welcome to the No Experience Podcast. Today I'm here with my... Fuck.
It's okay, we can cut this out.
I didn't even come up with a fucking thing for it.
We spent so long thinking of the bit, you didn't think of anything.
Welcome to the No Experience Podcast, where two dudes who are ready to die, are not ready to die, are on a quest to talk about anything and everything.
Do you want to try that one again?
Yeah.